Hi, everybody. My name is Sarah Auld. I'm a lawyer at Findlay Lawyers in Hamilton, Ontario. We are a civil litigation law firm, so we don't typically do a lot of wills and estates other than for clients and friends and family. But we are reaching out to all of the frontline healthcare and non-health COVID workers to offer up some services that it has come to my attention. There's a hashtag on Twitter called Law Twitter, and there are quite a lot of lawyers and judges and the courts post information to that feed. And one of the things that I noticed was happening was that frontline healthcare workers were reaching out to lawyers because these are scary times, and just saying, I haven't necessarily gotten all of my, affairs in order that I would have liked to have had in order. I never really thought I would have needed this, but, it's coming home very clearly to people that, this is a very scary time, especially for frontline workers. So we wanted to reach out and create a podcast that just gives a quick overview of wills and estates. So more of just wills and powers of attorney from a legal perspective. And with me, I have Dr. Brett Dunlop, who has been a long-time pillar of the Hamilton medical community, and I will let him introduce himself, but he has agreed to join me for a different perspective and to maybe give some information that will be relevant to you as frontline workers. Brett, do you want to introduce yourself?
Thanks, Sarah. I'm Brett Dunlop. I'm an orthopedic surgeon, or a mostly retired orthopedic surgeon from St. Joseph's Hospital in Hamilton. When Sarah approached me about this project, I thought it was fabulous, it was generous, and it's timely. And initially I thought, well, but it's kind of macabre or morbid, but unfortunately it is the way things are at this time of year, or this time of life. And so we're going to go through the slides that Sarah's presented and are going to present, and hopefully help you with this process.
Absolutely, that's what we want. We know that there's already a lot of anxiety out there, and we're not trying to create more anxiety for you. We just want to lend some resources that hopefully will be helpful for you and for your families. So we'll just get to the slideshow. You can see all the other things that I'm doing on my computer. All right. So here we are. Most of these slides will speak for themselves, so we'll just kind of go through them and maybe pull out some important highlights. So we do want to try to help you while you are caring for others. Oh, my slides are frozen. Hold on, there we are. So this is absolutely true. We see people unfortunately end up in circumstances where they don't have powers of attorney, and there's a whole complicated process called guardianship that has to be applied for. It's not easy, and it's not pretty, and the courts are all closed right now in any event, so everything's only being heard on a very emergency basis. So there are two different kinds. Brett will be able to speak to the healthcare, but powers of attorney just basically let somebody step into your shoes. So you can see some examples here on the screen. And Brett, can you just talk about some challenges that arise with the healthcare versus financial power of attorney?
Right. It's really important to know that there are two different types of power of attorney. One to deal with money and finances and stuff like that, and the other to actually make healthcare decisions. And frequently people get confused as to if they have power of attorney, they think that they can make healthcare decisions, and unless they have healthcare power of attorney, they can't.
Right. So there are two different kinds, and sometimes you have two different people carrying out those powers of attorney. So it's important to make a good choice. There are some factors here that can help you, make a decision as to who might be a good person to help you with that, but also to let the powers of attorney, if they are different people, let them know about each other, because they sometimes have areas where they need to intersect or make decisions together.
And that they should be clear about which power of attorney that they are.
Right, exactly, for sure. You can't be the healthcare power of attorney going to the bank and vice versa. So the other thing that you will really want to consider is perhaps having backup powers of attorney. So in the event that your first choice for power of attorney is unavailable or can't act for some reason, then you have backup powers of attorney, and you may want to, if it's if you're choosing backups to your spouse, then you may want to have two people who can sort of be good balances for each other. And then, you know, when you're doing the actual planning, you can decide if they can act together or if you allow them to act, you know, sort of one or the other, not both at the same time, but if they have to check in, and so there are checks and balances on what's happening there. Anything else, Brett?
No, I guess covers that.
Okay. So again, some things to think about when choosing a power of attorney. You cannot give it to the dog or the cat. So choose a human and just consider some of these things that are here on the slide. So we are providing some resources to help people. If people are wanting to prepare these things kind of quickly and their situation isn't too complicated and you just want to have a power of attorney in place as a starting point, then there are resources available through the Ministry of the Attorney General. We will be making those resources. You don't have to go and look up these websites or anything like that. We will be attaching these resources for you so you can just have them handy. And then we will also be available to help you in different ways. So whatever is most convenient and best for you is how we will help you. And there is some contact information for our office at the end of the presentation. We will also be making these slides available for anybody who would like them. And I guess they will always be available on the on-demand, however we're getting these videos out to you. So now we're going to move on to wills. And while it is possible to make sort of joint wills or mirror wills, we think it's best if everybody has their own. We're going to just go through, there are some slides that I've prepared that just kind of help you with what happens if you don't have a will. It can leave a big mess and a lot of unintended consequences. Ontario has some very interesting rules for what happens with your money and your property, and you know, other things like children when you don't have a will in place. So we'll just review these slides.
And there's often huge delays too if somebody dies intestate.
Exactly, yeah.
Or people getting whatever estate you want to leave.
Yes, it's true. You have to do a whole process to have somebody appointed to deal with the estate, and then, you know, you have to get all kinds of interaction with the court, which again, right now is not great because only very emergency situations are being heard at any level of the courts. So whether that's civil, criminal, family, almost nothing is happening in the courts right now. So these are just some more factors. There are real differences if you are you know, a married spouse versus a common law spouse, or you have a blended family where formal adoptions haven't been made, or there's still other partners in the picture. So there's a lot of different things to think about. So that being said, though, this doesn't have to be super complicated, and we do want to just make you aware of some of this information so that you can understand the reason why you may want to have a will and some powers of attorney in place. We can help, you know, sort of demystify this process for you and make it a lot more understandable than unintelligible. We hope that we can just make this very streamlined for you and get you some help with some of these issues. So this goes into the sort of later ways that your money gets distributed if you don't have a partner or spouse or children remaining after you. And again, of course, there may be other things that you want to plan for, and you may just not want to leave that up to the government as far as making decisions for you and how those things should be looked after. So this is a good example of why it's important to, you know, sort of plan today. So we'll just move along with that. So getting started, you know, there's a lot of different things to think about, but mostly it's just a matter of sorting out who some of these people are going to be and getting some documents together so that we can have an initial conversation to help you get these documents prepared. The other thing that we were just to the last point on the slide here, is in your will and as part of your powers of attorney, you can leave advanced care plans and funeral directives. But Brett, if you can just speak to the advanced care plan piece and just kind of the importance of that.
Yeah, advanced care plan, I guess, can be left in your will or put into or given to your power of attorney, such that your health power of attorney, such that your wishes at end of life and things like that are known, and they can act upon it.
Right, and not just only at end of life, but also during periods of incapacity. You can give some fairly specific directions for your power of attorney to provide to the healthcare team to sort of help them care for you in the way that you would want to if you're making your own decisions. So choosing an executor, it's a pretty important choice. People feel maybe left out if they aren't the one that is selected, but this is really something that takes it can take a lot of time. It certainly requires people to be very organized and to, sort of be prepared to engage with the whole process. Most people choose their spouse, and if everything is going to your spouse, that's wonderful, but you may also want to have a co-executor who can help out, and consider having backup executors for the reasons that are sort of set out here.
Right, it's a lot of work being an executor, particularly if the estate is complicated. And one thing I was going to ask, Sarah, that I didn't know: does your executor have to live in the province?
I don't think that they have to live in the province, but they would still be bound by provincial law, and they would have to deal with all of the matters in the province.
Okay.
So I think that they can be remote, but that might add another layer of complexity.
Right.
So choosing a guardian, this is pretty important, obviously. You want to have a conversation with somebody that you would trust to take care of your children or other incapable persons, and also, that you would be prepared to trust with their finances if you're not around. So it doesn't have to be a family member, but if there are existing family members who would be prepared to take on the role, that might be make some family difficulties if that situation arises.
Right. Incapable people is quite an important point as well, because a lot of folks have senior parents that need care as well.
Right, and who are, maybe don't have capacity or have some dementia challenges and things like that. So somebody needs to be able to care for them. And in the absence of somebody, sort of stepping up, if you haven't appointed anybody or nobody steps up, then what happens is the court will appoint the public guardian and trustee. So you essentially have, a stranger, probably a well-intended stranger, but a stranger now looking after the person who was in your charge. So again, pets, this is one that's kind of close to my heart. There are, ways to make plans for pets. I think people are becoming increasingly aware of that, and they don't have to be sort of left behind or left out in the event of, a tragic circumstance. So it's important to plan for them too. Brett, anything on that?
Well, I know it's an issue that's near and dear to your heart.
Yes. Have you passed that along to Gatsby's parents?
Okay.
Gatsby is Brett's grand dog. So here are some things to think about, just in terms of debts and obligations, and then things that we maybe don't typically think of as assets or property, but that certainly have some value. Brett, you had given an example, I think, of like some book, right?
Book royalties.
Right. So that's another thing, if you have things like that, or a blog that makes you money, or, maybe a YouTube channel or something like that, those are all assets that can be considered.
And collections, people don't know that collections really have some value, or a lot of collections have value, and they need to perhaps think of that as well.
Yeah, exactly. So that kind of brings us to our next slide here, which is making lists of assets. So here the list includes collections. So that can be, kind of anything from, stamps or coins or paintings or, jewelry, Harley Davidsons, whatever you're thinking of. So, and then you want to really give some thought to who you would like to benefit and how you can make that happen so that you can leave sort of specific instructions for your executors to carry out.
On this slide, the words are make lists, and this is really important. It's hard to do it off the cuff. You sort of need to make the lists of the folks you want to give to, but also the things you're going to give them.
Right, exactly. And sometimes that can be really specific, or sometimes it can just be, you know, I have 4 children. None of them have children currently, but I would like them to each have an equal share or not, or, you know, these ones have children, so maybe I'd like to leave a little bit more. But it does take a little bit of pre-planning to sort of think about some of this stuff so that we can get it into a form that makes it legally effective. So again, here are some more important considerations, people and documents that we want to kind of think through. So at the very minimum, when it comes to insurance policies, then we would need to properly identify them in terms of policy numbers, the value of that policy, and then if a beneficiary and contingent beneficiaries have already been named, or if they haven't, and that's something that needs to be looked after in the will.
And it may be a good idea as well, when you make your lists of documents, to provide a location for the executor so that they can actually find these things.
Yeah, agreed. One of the things that I have done personally is I have scanned in all of my policies and other documents that would be important for estate planning purposes, and I have created a folder in a cloud that an executor can be given a password to in the will. So that's another way of, you know, sort of keeping things organized for your executor, making their life a little bit easier. So again, you know, we sort of don't always think that we need to take care of things right away because we all have lots of time going forward, but these are some things that we do need to take care of, and I think a lot of people are appreciating that now. So just kind of shows you all the different aspects that your power of attorney and your estate can deal with. So we are ready to help. We're ready to help you. We are aiming this this webcast primarily to start with at frontline COVID workers. So whether you are a doctor, a nurse, a respiratory therapist, you know, a tech, somebody who's, you know, having to be on the front lines day in and day out, you know, the custodial staff, all of the people that are sort of being exposed right now, we're here to help you. There's lots of ways that we can do that. We have lots of people who are standing by and happy to help with this project and want to help support in any way that we can. So here, there's also a lot being looked at by the province right now in the legislature in terms of how we can get around some of the formal requirements for wills so that these documents can be dealt with properly and be legal in this time of social distancing where we are not really meeting with people in person. So that is all sort of underway so that we can get this done for you. We just want to say a big, huge thank you to everybody who's out there who's dealing with this pandemic. And again, to let you know, we will help however we can. So if you want, sorry.
Sarah, thank you and your other lawyer friends for proceeding with this, because it's really timely and unfortunately necessary.
And we're trying to start a fire here locally that will hopefully spread across the province. We're hoping that some of our other lawyer colleagues will pick up the ball and move this to other communities. And we've already got some outreach happening that way. There's a lawyer in Ottawa who is standing by to help the Ottawa community, and we'll be accessing this podcast and these slides later. So we're hoping that that's going to just be an initiative that's going to get picked up across the province. And here is some contact information for our office. So you can reach out however is best for you. You can do an online chat if you go to our website. These slides will also be available through our website as well as through the other channels with Hamilton Health Sciences and St. Joe's. So please do whatever is best for you, and we will respond as quickly and as best as we can to kind of get this out there. I would also like to give a very big shout out to all of these other people who over the last 2 or 3 days have gotten in touch. They've heard about the project and they are standing by to help us with this. Some of these people are specifically wills and estates people, so it would be lovely to have their help. And I just want to recognize that they have stepped up to help with this project and their contribution that they're going to be making. They will also be helping on a pro bono, meaning free basis. So thank you to everybody listed on this slide. And that's everything that I have for today. Brett, do you have any other comments?
Just to say thank you, and thank you to all the people that are doing all the hard work. And so this project hopefully will add something to or help them in some way.
Yes, and we were just contemplating, we do a fair amount of outdoor advertising, and if anybody has any ideas and would like to reach out to us to what you would like those signs to say, my suggestion was, if you can read this, go home. So we'll see what that ends up looking like, but please reach out to us if you have anything you want to talk to us about or you would like help with these issues. Thanks very much, everybody. We'll sign off there.
Good.
Let me see if I'm
You added a new slide there at the end since the last time I talked.